The judgment has been anticipated since the FLA first filed its legal challenge in early April. In refusing the application, Supreme Court Justice Tara Carr held that the court already had sufficient information to determine the issues at this preliminary stage of proceedings, making disclosure of the report unnecessary. Judge Carr found that the FLA was already aware of the nature of the investigation, the decision-makers involved, and the grounds on which it intended to challenge the process, including allegations of procedural unfairness and illegality. Since judicial review is primarily concerned with how a decision was made rather than its substance, the FLA's lack of access to the full report did not prevent it from advancing its case. The court also found that the Integrity Commission had satisfied its duty of candor, the legal obligation on public bodies to be forthcoming with the court by providing sufficient information about the investigation and the process it followed. Critically, Justice Carr rejected the FLA's argument that the report fell outside the confidentiality protections of the Integrity Commission Act. The court concluded that reports prepared under Section 54 of the Integrity Commission Act remain subject to the confidentiality requirements of Section 53(3) until they are tabled in Parliament. The judge noted that the legislation expressly criminalizes the unauthorized disclosure of confidential investigative material and held that it would be inappropriate for the court to order disclosure where Parliament had already prescribed a clear statutory process governing both confidentiality and tabling. The ruling does not, however, bring the matter to a close, with the court granting the FLA leave to appeal its decision. Meanwhile, the substantive application for leave to apply for judicial review, in which the FLA will seek to formally challenge the Integrity Commission's investigation process, is scheduled to be heard on September 17. This means the legal battle will continue well into the second half of the year. The report has been with Parliament since March 30, when it was formally received and signed for at Gordon House. Parliament's refusal to table the report in the weeks after its submission triggered a fierce political row, with opposition leader Mark Golding accusing Gordon House of undermining the Integrity Commission Act. Senate President Tom Tavares Finson defended the delay, arguing that the Integrity Commission Act places no fixed deadline on presiding officers to table reports. The Integrity Commission itself wrote formally to Parliament and urged Gordon House to table the report. Friday's ruling does not directly order Parliament to do so. The question of whether and when the presiding officers will now lay the document before the Houses remains unanswered. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
The Supreme Court has refused an application by the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, seeking disclosure of an investigative report prepared by the Integrity Commission concerning alleged corruption, impropriety and irregularities in the storage of firearms and ammunition and the award of firearm licenses at the authority.
In a ruling delivered by Justice Tara Carr in Chambers, the court determined that the report remains confidential under the provisions of the Integrity Commission Act until it is formally tabled in Parliament. In refusing the application, Justice Carr held that the court already had sufficient information to determine the issues arising at the leave stage, and that disclosure of the report was therefore unnecessary at this point in the proceedings. The court found that the FLA was already aware of the nature of the investigation, the decision-makers involved, and the grounds upon which it intended to challenge the process, including allegations of procedural unfairness and illegality. Justice Carr stated that the judicial review proceedings are primarily concerned with the decision-making process of which the applicant was already aware. The court further held that the Integrity Commission had satisfied its duty of candor by providing sufficient information regarding the investigation and the process undertaken. Justice Carr also rejected submissions that the report fell outside the confidentiality provisions of the Integrity Commission Act. The court concluded that reports prepared pursuant to Section 54 of the Act remain subject to the confidentiality requirements imposed by Section 53(3) until they are tabled in Parliament. The judge noted that the legislation expressly criminalizes unauthorized disclosure of confidential investigative material and held that it would be inappropriate for the court to order disclosure in circumstances where Parliament had prescribed a clear statutory process governing confidentiality and tabling. Accordingly, the court refused the application for disclosure. The court granted leave to appeal the ruling. The substantive application for leave to apply for judicial review is scheduled for hearing on September 17, 2026. Janella Precious, TVJ News.
A number of these youngsters now who find that, boy, I can't get a legal gun, and if me do put me on an illegal thing, the same policeman them will come out of the community or will come look for me. So guess what them do? Them go join the police. Right? Them join the police, because by joining the police, you know, you not only do you have access to a firearm, in a lot of instances you're able to carry home that firearm, right? And so by having that firearm and the ability to carry it home, you have a score that you can now settle with you have a score to settle within your respective community. Mark T, hey, what about? But so you have a score, you're gonna use your gun for go settle it. And so implicit in all of that is the kind of situation where today, because keep in mind, you know, a policeman in the current environment has the legal right to take the lives of other Jamaicans under the guise of doing their jobs. And so in the absence of the application of technology that is going to be looking at these policemen in the execution of their jobs, those who go on these special operations.
After a recording historic year for crime fighting in 2025, the Police High Command is reporting a 23% reduction in murders almost halfway into 2026. Commissioner of Police Dr. Kevin Blake, who has attributed the continued reduction to targeted policing, stronger partnerships, improved intelligence, capabilities and technological investments, also hit back at public narratives about the force. More from Nakinski Robinson.
Up to May 23, 213 murders were recorded when compared with 275 for the corresponding period last year. According to the police, there has also been a 24% reduction in murders for May when compared with the same period last year. Overall, major crimes are down 20%. Police Chief Dr. Kevin Blake contends that the gains made are not by chance, attributing the success instead to strategic and effective policing. The top cop, who is acknowledging criticisms leveled against the JCF in recent weeks following the police fatal shooting of Latoya Bujabulgin in Granville, St. James, contends that the organization should not be defined by a few unfortunate incidents involving the questionable judgment of a small number of its members. The JCF has also come under fire for the slow implementation of body-worn cameras on planned police operations. However, the police chief says while criticisms are welcome, as the force has grown stronger because of constructive feedback, they must be reasonable, informed and sincere. Commissioner Blake says the JCF is never comfortable with incidents that result in wounding or loss of life, whether involving any police personnel or members of the public. Accordingly, he has urged rank-and-file members to reject the negative behavior of the few that are doing damage.
They're officers of the law. If you resemble Maga and I'm Makanda Daga, then we don't need Socrates, because even our clots could see there's no gray area. It's clear from A straight up to Z that you don't want to protest. You think that's a shock to me? You're even within the reason we decided to go protest. No battle, no shield, no helmet, no vest will make us go rest. I don't know if you don't know yet, but if the law saying the wrong is right, then I just go left. Protest wasn't just seen as a threat yesterday or day before. The winds of history swayed this way before. Circa Kambule 1881, Ose Massacre 1884, where silence had to take a seat and action had to take the floor. Police didn't like it same way. Funny, the way they relayed the score was, for nothing the slaves can behave them blocking the pavement. But it's been clear throughout the passage of time that it was never a good look that the police suppressed the hands of protest and established that that is a crime. 1970. Anything besides quiet was considered riot. But they started bad. Even Market Crab couldn't get more tie-up. Maybe the police needed clarity. Perhaps they were in doubt. Sure, it was dry season, an ideal reason to be outdoors. But you know black people always losing container covers. Well, without a shadow of a doubt, they lost the cover for their mouth and outpoured from their hearts. So when captains say don't shout, no doubt they shout more. You think the police didn't know the intent was a just cause? Of course, but up top that is not what the people were blocked for. See, what 1881 and 1884 taught us simply then was that minus colonial aggression and incident, demonstration simply sent a sentiment sinking in with inching increment. It wasn't kill or be killed. Rather, it was an awakening and we couldn't keep still. In the 70s, my uncle hid within the hills, saw unjust laws and sparked feuds, smeared black paint on white gods and made black statues, was tainted on headlines as bad news, attacked by black-hued men that lacked the black acumen and spewed the same argument as you. You're breaking the law. But the men he hid in the hills with knew that you had to break muscle to build it. Our own history has taught us that peace don't mean stillness. And these people today, not even on that type of time. It's just like-minded people who exploded like a mine because police reacting like the line was crossed when of course I just exercising a right of mine. Stop me if at any time I expend the energy that policemen is any enemy, not me. I could then end in penitent tenement or imminent penalty, which simply means I could get jail time or get my tail fined. I just saying, the position you enjoy is as a result of the people. So you disconnected if you don't feel the pulse of the people. If you see a people hurting and the first thing you do is misconstrue, I need you all to be quiet with, I need you all to be peaceful, then you're approaching the whole thing from the wrong angle. To protect and serve was the promise, let alone be honest. If you are the ones who set the tone, then I must say the tone resembles colonialists. Is it that you rather censor, cage or quiet them than create a safe environment that ensures there's no place for violence? For a healthy society to not sit in decay, to not sit in the grey is a requirement. Let the people come outside.
189 people fatally shot by the constabulary force in 2024. 311 people fatally shot by the constabulary force 2025. 135 people fatally shot by the constabulary force 2026 from January to the month of May.
Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang has sought to clarify his shoot to kill directive to members of the security forces when they engage criminals in a gunfight.
If they are attacked by brutal gunmen, they must fire back. That's the term I use, which will return fire. And I went on to say, I'm entreating the commissioner to train them well. They should not miss, because if they miss, they die.
They also say the all-time low on crime is not because of the amount of people that was shot, but also the tactical measures and the security upgrade and the AI and all these things that they are using. That is a part of the reason why the crime is so low. Now, if this is really working, why is it that you have to shoot more people every year?
But the truth is, we resist authority. So the police is coming to the citizen with the notion that their authority must automatically be accepted and respected because I wear the uniform. And the citizen is coming to the interaction with the police that historically these persons have been oppressive and unfair and unjust, and I am going to resist and defend my rights. Immediately, there is the setup for a confrontation in the society. This cannot continue as we seek to modernize our society. There must be a watershed period where this ends.
No, it is just a question. I'm just trying to get your attention, right? This is not really what I want to talk about, but here is what I want to talk about. 139 people was arrested for predial larceny in 2024. 381 people was arrested for predial larceny in 2025. Now, between St. Catherine and St. Thomas alone, 102 people was arrested for predial larceny since the start of this year, from January to May. Now, if the restriction and the increase of fines that the government has implemented was working, why is it that there is more people being arrested every year for predial larceny? Now, a law is like a statue, or a law is called statue, right? It does not move. Like the statue of Usain Bolt, it does not move. That's why you always hear them say that nobody is above the law. The law doesn't respect nobody, but everybody must respect the law, because the law does not move. You have to move, not the law. Now, if you're still here, I'm asking you to stay with me, please. Now, a legislation, you ever hear them talk about a legislation? A legislation is like a part of a law, or the leg of a statue, right? The leg of a statue. Now, the leg of a statue is also law. So the legislation is basically law. It is established. It doesn't move. Now, an act is the act of the law, or the act of a statue. So the act move. The act can be reshaped. The act can be corrected. But when the act is made into a legislation, and when that legislation become a statute or a permanent law, it doesn't move. But the act can be moved. Now, because an act can be moved, an act is debatable by the people, right? When the lower house of representatives draw up a bill or a proposal, they send it to the upper house. The upper house make correction, and they together pass it into an act. Now, that act is imperfect, so it is thrown out there and is used to govern. Now, if that act is governed for a while and nobody find any complaint or no problem with the act, that act will be later passed into a law. So when that bill is passed into an act, and that act become movable, starting to govern the people, that is when the common people have a say. That is when you can debate it and speak up about it, what you see in that act that is not right, or what you see that is wrong about that act. But if you sit down and allow that act to be fermented, if you allow that act to become cemented and say nothing about it, even when it is causing you hell, and you say nothing about it, that act later on will become a law, and it will be immovable, and you will have to live by it. So now that the predial larceny act is still an act, now it is time for farmers and higglers to talk about it. Now it's time for you guys to debate it. Now, if you choose not to put your voice to it, if you choose not to debate it, if you choose to say nothing about it, then your silence will drive that act into a law, and you will have to live with it years to come. And you will bear the consequences for what you did not voice out. For what you didn't speak about, you will have to bear the consequences for it. When the police is down on the North Coast, or near the market, or near the towns, checking goods that is going into the market, and slapping higglers and those who are transporting the goods with big charges, how does that stop the farmer goods from being stolen? All it is doing is putting some more money into the pocket of the government. Right? The person who is stealing the goods, a lot of them also plant stuff. So they go down to RADA, they get an ID, they get a book, and they write a receipt for the stolen goods, and they sell it to whoever they sell it to. And when that person meet upon the police, that person give the police the receipt, the police let through the goods. The goods is stolen. How does that help? I see how this act help the government with revenue. But how does it help the farmer goods from being stolen? And the thing about it is that there's a lot of unjust charging that is happening because a lot of higglers who buy their stuff square from farmers who are legitimate farmers, and because the farmers are not registered, because they are not registered, those higglers are being charged, but those goods are not being stolen. And at the same time, the goods that are being stolen, some of those who stole them have receipt books and sell those goods, and the stolen goods pass through. While those goods that are bought, the police are charging for those. It's time for us to speak up for these laws to be adjusted. They need to be adjusted. They cannot be passed into law as they are. A lot of these pre-dear lasting act concerning ground provision must be adjusted. But my voice alone cannot do it. If those who are out there who is being affected are just going to the courts and just paying the money and call it a day, remember, you might forget your receipt someday to come, and you might just get a bigger fine. And if you forget it again, you might just get a bigger fine. So if you don't speak up now, then whatever happens to you is your fault. Is your fault.
So I notice these days we have a certain person just hitting hard and destroying the police force and cussing off these police and calling them all sort of corruption and killers and crooks, and I think you need to think about yourself. First of all, I'm a justice of the peace, and I've been doing that for 30 years. And I have encountered many police, all different levels, from the beginner to the superintendent. And I've been stopped many times, whether it's overtaking, whether it's a little over the speed limit. I've been stopped many times. And like anywhere else, if you antagonize them and disobey them, like you have something to hide, then they will get aggressive. Because you don't know what they go through on a daily basis. You don't live like them. You're not on the road at 3 o'clock in the morning fighting crime. You're not down into the volatile areas. You're not worrying about somebody taking after your family. And no matter how hard you work and how many hours you put in as a police officer, sometimes you can't pay your rent, your light, your water, your telephone, send your child to school. Because it's not a high-paying job, and it should be. They should get one of the highest paid jobs as a police. Like in America, people line up to become a police, a firefighter, because they get paid and they get good pension and you get the quality. People come out of universities and go into that. In Jamaica, you're trained to a level. Then you're sent out on the road to take your basic training, from giving tickets to, stopping cars, to doing searches. And they're doing what they need to do to protect us. Now, I'm not saying you don't have some bad eggs. Not saying that. I'm not saying like in anything else, including government, you have some bad apples. Those apples you need to weed out. And it's going to take certain people to weed them out. And if you are with a group of people that are not, you can see somebody not doing well, then you have to be cautious of your job. But you have to also learn how to weed that person out. And that's why you have different ranks in the police force. Now, I have been stopped, as I said, and when somebody comes and stops me, the first thing I do is roll down my window. Because they don't know who is in the car. They don't know who is in the back seat. And they don't know whether you're a crook or a thief or not. They don't know. So I roll down my window. I keep my hand on the steering wheel. Yes, officer. No, officer. Yes, sir. They want my papers. Here are my papers. I have nothing to hide. There's no contact. Oh, hello, I don't have to show you my papers. Bull crap. They're doing their job and give them their papers, because these days they can scan your license and tell you whether your license up to date, your insurance up to date, your car is passed. And they ask you for your driver's license to match the ID. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if they have reasonable doubt and think that maybe they need to do a quick check of your bonnet or your trunk, I have nothing to hide. Officer, do you mind if I come out and I escort you and watch you to do the search? There's nothing wrong with watching them either. Be polite to them. Some of them are on jobs for 24 hours and they haven't eaten, and they might be at the edge. There's no reason to take out the camera and videotape them and, oh, I'm going to report you, and, oh, I'm an attorney and I'm going to take you
Jamaica, let me say something. Why is it this government is so adamant about not having the IC reports table? Why them avoiding? Why aren't you afraid to have the IC report them table? I'm gonna love ask the labor right them that question too. Why wouldn't not tell them 1 PM say to release the reports? In Jamaica, FLA, Firearm Licensing Authority. For years, Jamaica, corruption are going on in that department. I see people who is a questionable character get firearm permits. Yeah? And you tell me, Jamaica, the government would have really tried to stop the report? Why? Is it Jamaica? Remember one day I see my friend come show me. He have firearm and he have license. No. He not have no business, you know. He not have no business. What him could have tell FLA for them to give him a firearm permit? You know what he said to me, Jamaica? He said, you can get one for you, know. XY money. Them time the 20 grand a good money in Jamaica. So I said that you pay and he said yes. Jamaica, them man they head cheap. Until they go and get take away in Jamaica. Can feel like he can back the gun pan everybody. If you look pan him too hard, him ready for pop off. And them people they get firearm permit. But Jamaica, the level of corruption by this government, it's mind-boggling that this government wouldn't want to see the report. Imagine that. What aren't you ever hide? Jamaica, the same thing with the tax administration office. Tax administration Jamaica. They find big corruption over there. Because the uptown rich people them was wiping them property tax so them not pay for many years. Clean. They were paying the money and get them documents clean up. Clean up Jamaica. They were transferring people property in a people name when they own it. That money was being slipping through. You hear me say Jamaica? One big corruption. And Jamaica, when people get arrested and went, and up to now Jamaica, 9 years later, no trial. No trial, nobody no get held accountable Jamaica. Millions of dollars, billions of dollars missing from the tax administration. And nobody going to jail Jamaica. Because the DPP office decide they not show up a court. Every time they used to go court Jamaica, them ask the extension, them this paper not ready, that not ready, and this time Jamaica, them nobody show up Jamaica. So the case threw out, the judge threw out the case. You see that Jamaica? Nobody held accountable. No Jamaica. Why? You don't ask Andrew to release the FinSac report. No. Me see the labor right them. You may talk to no labor right. Me soon run out in an election. FinSac. Me soon dirty jankro. Me soon. No, Andrew pay millions of dollars for the report. Why him not release the report, Jamaica? Jamaica, labor rights, ask Andrew to release the FinSac report. Andrew, I dare you. I dare you, Andrew. Andrew, if you're bad and you're a real bro God, release the report. Because me want the labor right them to be silent, you know. Yeah, man. Me want the labor right them to be silent when them hear the report. But Jamaica, Andrew cannot afford for one to see the report. Him cannot, Jamaica. Him cannot. Because FinSac is a failure of the JLP administration. PNP do that, set up that body to save Jamaica from labor right destruction. It may never work out properly, but who is to be blamed? You see Jamaica? The level of corruption inside Jamaica is mind-boggling. And this Prime Minister go out on a limb Jamaica to have any report that the public is going to see. Them doctor the report, them doctor it down, till when them can't doctor it no more, them realize that we have to go fight in a court to prevent it from table. So the Jamaican people can have an idea what is taking place, what this government have hiding in Jamaica. But never say something to the labor right them. Before you not give me a suck your mother, before you call me fish. Hey, before you do all of that Jamaica, me want to not join together and say, Andrew, release the report. Just say, Andrew, I dare you to release the FinSac report. Because Jamaica, them a fight for FLA report not release, you know. The Supreme Court strike them down. You see Jamaica? Jamaica, the level of corruption, and let me tell you something, Jamaica. The next thing you must ask them, the drugs them where them find, where them seize, ask them how them discard of it. Jamaica, ask them that. Ask your ministers, ask your commissioner of police, and your security minister, and your justice minister, and your prime minister. Ask them how them discard of those drugs. Is it Jamaica? Because next thing you know, Jamaica, them drugs has been escaping in nearby bushes. Jamaica, ask them again, Jamaica. The firearms will them take off the street. Ask them nicely, Jamaica. What do you do with them? Show me evidence how to dispose of them. Because you see, Jamaica, many of them gun and the bullets them escape in nearby bushes, Jamaica. Ask them, Jamaica. Jamaica, the millions of dollars worth of cars that was buy for the police department, up to now Jamaica them not deliver, and that just gone quiet. The next 60 bus what Daryl Vaz saying buy for $1.4 billion, out of the 120 only 60 come on the island, and them halfway mash up already Jamaica. And nobody is going to ask Daryl Vaz where the rest of money there, where the rest of bus there. But labor right wants to stay silent. You see that, Jamaica? Bunch of hypocrites. No, Jamaica, come on. Ask them to tell you no. No, why them have secret with JPS? Why, Jamaica? Why you can't know how the tax dollars gone? And who the tax dollars was paying for the insurance ban? And them say it's for Jamaica. I mean, they tell you no, Jamaica. Who will realize what Nigel Clark did to Jamaica and not for Jamaica? Because that money they don't go to none of Uno, it go to JPS. Uno tax dollars pay for the insurance ban Jamaica. When all over Jamaica, the little that the people ask for is water and road, and government can't deliver. And we see some man, we see the nice highway. Yes, government go on the road. What about the roads that take the regular citizens that have to go to these hotels and these fancy places that them set the highways and the nice roads to go? What about these people who have to go to work from these communities where the road them bad? Some of them can't even get a shower before they go to work. In Jamaica, them have to wet the little rocks with a little bucket of water and wipe up them arm and them front. Many of them are labor right too, you know. Only can't stay stink anyway. Because I only say shower labor right, I don't know, get no water for shower. You see that? Imagine. Only say shower labor right, I don't know labor right, government don't give you no water. I don't know, still want to come over here to give me a suck your mother? To call me a fish? Hey, Jamaica, you can't style me as much you know want. First to begin, let me explain something to you. You see, if I was a fish, I would have proudly say that because I live into a country that protect fish. Some wouldn't need to come hide say me a fish. But since you don't say so, you always have something to talk. Big up all the girls when me there with over the years. Them know say me and enough fish. Them know me like fishy. But Jamaica, make no mistake, uno government corrupt. And me see Andrew gone tour down West Kingston, Jamaica. And him said, him never knows the police station will burn down when the attack did go on down at them and town. Him never know the police station never rebuild. What can go so? Jamaica one card of mic, never two. And me, never tell a lie.
Wagwan, the beautiful people of Jamaica. My good people, I'm so sorry I didn't post videos for the last 2 days, but I'm back. So guys, in today's video, we are going to talk about the firearm, firearm licensing authority. There is a big story over there. Jamaicans have come out to talk about it. So I know that, or if you haven't seen this story about the Supreme Court of Jamaica, blocking the FLA from accessing this report, IC report, the Integrity Commission report. So this story is still getting bigger by each and every day. People are always coming out to comment, and we know that they're still coming out to say about something to do with that. So the Supreme Court of Jamaica has just dealt a major blow to the Firearm Licensing Authority, also known as, or in short form, FLA. So what the Supreme Court has done is that it has rejected FLA's plea to access corruption investigation report that was prepared by the Integrity Commission. So, of course, this will spark a reaction and outrage, and people will talk. And I can tell you, you have had Jamaicans commenting about the situation, and so many questions are being asked. And one of them is that if there is nothing to hide, in that report, why should the Supreme Court fight so hard to give the FLA the access to the report? Why? Anyway, that is also something that I also want to understand. Why is it that this report has not yet been tabled in the parliament, sorry? So I want us to talk about some things here and there about it, so that at least we may get to understand what's really happening. First of all, I don't know if you already know what is Integrity Commission and why was it founded, what is its purpose, and I can tell you just from the word Integrity Commission. We also want to understand why the Firearm Licensing Authority went to the Supreme Court, and why is it that the Supreme Court has decided whatever it has decided, or why the Supreme Court has decided to block and reject access to this particular report to the FLA. So it's good to understand also how this story started from the beginning, so that by the time we end, we will be in a position to understand the full story. So in order for us to understand this controversy, this drama, we have to go back to the year, to the beginning of 2026, just this year. Remember, we are in May, not really May. Today is 1st June. So earlier this year, there was this story that was that had built for nearly a decade. That, imagine guys, a story that had built for like 10 years. So back in the year 2017, there was an allegation that Firearm Licensing Authority were being issued, or firearms, the Firearm Licensing Authority, remember, they're the body that issues firearms to qualified people. So now they were accused of issuing to people, they are accused of issuing these firearms to people of questionable characters. So remember, this story started 10 years ago. So this story, that's how it all started. Because immediately that came out, then it raised alarms. People talked a lot and endlessly. Because you see, the Firearm Authority or licensing to the firearms, they are supposed to go through thorough checks, thorough securities. And then you come out, see police officers and the body, okay, or the staffs that are working there, issuing aimlessly, anyhowly to questionable characters, you know. So at that point, then okay, later on, that is when we saw in the media that someone had begun looking into this story deeply. He wanted so many things to be explained. And then now we had to see, or the Integrity Commission came up, it was created, and these particular investigations continued under the anti-corruption body. That is why you'll see some corruption there. Even in our title, I think it will appear. So this particular story became one of the biggest one that involved licensing firearm authority or firearm licensing authority, and deep investigation started. This investigation, according to the Integrity Commission's report, is that there were several major questions that remained unanswered and they needed to be answered. One of the questions that really needed answers is if firearms were, or if the licenses were being granted properly. Because according to them, they felt like they were being granted improperly without using the correct procedure. Some of the things that needed answers is if these rules were ignored or not. And was there a conflict of interest? Did the public officials influence the decisions? Those are some of the things. Were the people receiving these benefits, were they in exchange for these approvals? Did they give kickbacks in order for them to get it? You see, those are very serious questions that needed answers. And this investigation spent so many years, so many, by the way, trying to examine the application, the processes, the approval processes, looking at how decisions were made, and then they finally came out with some findings, and those findings shocked Jamaicans in general. You see, the Integrity Commission reported that it had an explosive conclusion, and the report concluded that firearm licenses were granted to people who had criminal histories. Very unfair to the beautiful people and peaceful people of Jamaica. You see, some of these licenses had been granted to drug-related convictions. Some were linked to lottery scamming activities. Others had previous concerns raised by investigators. And this particular report also, it had criticized what it described as irregular practices inside the system itself. So one of the most controversial findings involved what investigators described as expedited treatment, meaning that there were some applications, some fishy applications that allegedly moved very, very fast than the others, like within a day, within some few hours, fishy applications. And you see, guys, according to the report also, it was, of course, if you come up with a finding, you also have to come up with suggestions. So this report by the IC, it suggested that this kind of VIP treatment created a lot of opportunities for corruption, which really drained the government, the people of Jamaica, because they are not benefiting in any way. And if you hear that statement alone, this sort of VIP treatment, granting and creating opportunities for corruption, that will not sit well with any Jamaican anywhere else, even if they had never had and then they're told. So that particular statement alone, I know it actually sparks an outrage, because Jamaicans, at the end of the day, they expect fairness, they expect not special treatment because they're all the same. They expect the same rules to be applied to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, one law for everyone. It's not like some laws apply to some people and others it doesn't. So the citizens of Jamaica, the good people of Jamaica, are also shocked that some politicians were also mentioned. Oh my God. Because you see, this particular report, it examined the roles that were played by the public officials and also former government leaders. And several people were questioned during these investigations. And also, guys, there were former employees, former officials that provided a statement regarding these particular investigations. And so many questions were raised on the decision-making part, because that's where there was a lot of loopholes and gaps. There were influences here and there. You apply, you have somebody there, they push for you, and no oversight at all. So this thing is chaotic. And I can tell you, if you get to be mentioned in an investigation, oh my God, it's so bad. Although it really does not automatically mean that you are wrong, because they also need to have some evidences. I don't know what to think about that, because I know Jamaicans are really mad. They're really mad because also at the same time, you see, as the good people of Jamaica, what they expect is something that benefits all of them, not unfairness. So even after this report has been completed, I can tell you that this controversy will never ever disappear. In fact, many Jamaicans, they do believe that the issue, you see, after it had begun some few years ago, they actually believed that this issue had been pushed into the background. Then, just like some few days, it exploded again. And we had this report from the Integrity Commission that involved the FLA, Firearm Licensing Authority, that had not yet been tabled into the parliament. And I think you had somebody there saying that, you see, this particular report, there are names of politicians in government, like who are in government, like right now. I think that was the reason as to why they don't want it to go to the parliament to be discussed. So I know Jamaicans will ask very many questions, because at the end of the day, they want accountability, they want transparency, they want answers. People want to know what is in that particular report. Anyway, there will be legal battles here and there, because you see, the FLA went to court, this body, Firearm Licensing Authority. They wanted to access this Integrity Commission report. But again, it was said that you see them, they wanted to see these findings, like what is in it. They need to know. But you see, this particular report ended up in the Supreme Court of Jamaica, and blurring and blocking, rejecting that the FLA should not have access to it. So what do you expect? What do you expect? In fact, what do you expect from the PNP? Hey, They will talk, and I am waiting for their response to come and discuss it here. So there's a lot of discussion, arguments, criticism, because you see, people are saying, okay, at the end of the day, people will take sides, right? Those that will criticize and those that will support, and they'll come out and talk here in social media. But anyway, let's just wait for the, because if the issue is still in court, then we just need to wait for it. So, as I'd already told you, the Supreme Court rejected that the FLA's application should be blocked and rejected. And that did not go well with them, of course. And it's the people who are going to speak on their behalf for not giving them access that it wanted. The story is not going to end here, by the way. It will never end here. There's the court also, it granted permission for the FLA to appeal that particular decision. So they have a law in place. So as you can see, the legal battle is not yet over. It's not even close to be over. And another chapter, another phase will be opened up, and many Jamaicans and most of us will be watching like, why? So the public reaction is crazy. It's going to be crazy. As you can see, Jamaicans feel frustrated, not just with the court case, but with the entire situation. Because people are asking, like, why is it that the report, these reports that involve major public interest matters take like really long to reach to the people compared to other controversies? They want transparency as their priority in this. So remember, public trust is already eroded in this particular system, and I don't know what's going to be done so that at least people, when they're told something, they get to believe it. Anyway, people also want clarity, accountability, and with that, confidence with the system. So I don't know what to think about that particular story, guys. I really want to know from your hand, like, what do you think? For me, honestly, the people of Jamaica need to know the truth, because it's happening in their country. And remember, people have been complaining about crimes in their beautiful island. So they need transparency, accountability. They need to know what is in the report. Anyway, thank you, guys. If you watched the clip up to this point, I do appreciate your presence. I'll see you in the next video.